Hello again, everyone. We have now used number lines and inequalities to represent a range of continuous values. Today, we will be going over one more way we have to do this, called interval notation. Interval notation uses either parentheses or brackets around two numbers, say a and b, separated by a comma, to represent all numbers between them. So both of these intervals include all numbers between a and b. Note that we always write intervals with the smaller number on the left and the bigger number on the right. The difference between parentheses and brackets is that parentheses do not include the endpoints a or b. This would be the equivalent of having open circles on our number line. Meanwhile, brackets do include the endpoints a and b. So this would be the equivalent of filled-in circles on our number line. And then since each of these intervals covers all the numbers between a and b, we would shade our number line like so. We can also have intervals where brackets and parentheses are mixed like this. The bracket in this first interval would tell us that a is included, while the parentheses tells us b is not. Meanwhile, for the second interval, the parentheses on the a tells us a is not included, while the bracket on the b tells us b is included. To better understand how to use interval notation, let's return to one of our examples we discussed last time. We had this inequality, -2 is less than x is less than or equal to 1, which gave the number line here. Now let's try to express this in interval notation. We will start at our lower endpoint, which is this -2. The -2 is not included in our range of values, so it will get a parentheses. Then we will include every number up to our next endpoint, which is at 1. So our interval will end at 1. And because of the filled-in circle, that number is included in our interval, so should get a bracket. And just like that, we have this range of values written in interval notation. There are a few more things we want to make note of with intervals. First off, let's consider a case where our range of values continues forever. That is, it either goes to positive infinity or negative infinity. For the positive case, consider this inequality, x is greater than or equal to 3. Based on what we talked about last time, this inequality will give us a number line like this. Our interval will start at our leftmost endpoint, which is here at +3. And because it has a filled-in circle, we will write it with a bracket. The next number we should write in our interval should be the endpoint that's to the right of that 3. However, in this case, there is no larger endpoint to the right of 3. We just continue on forever. To represent this in interval notation, we write infinity after the comma. We will now make note that whenever we have an infinity in our interval, it always gets a parentheses, not a bracket. The reason for this is that infinity is not an actual number that can be included in our range of values. Now, let's also consider a case where our interval goes on forever in the negative direction. For this example, let's use the inequality x is less than 3. This inequality would give us a number line that is shaded like this. Now to start our interval, we would usually start at the leftmost endpoint of our shaded region. However, we have no lower endpoint for this case. Our shaded region goes all the way to negative infinity. So that is also how we will start our interval, with negative infinity. And as we just mentioned, infinities always get parentheses in our interval notation. From negative infinity, our shaded region continues up to the endpoint of 3, where we have an open circle meaning we should not include 3 in our interval, so it should get a parentheses. And just like that, here are our intervals. Finally, let's see how we can join separated intervals into one solution. If we want to express 2 disconnected intervals as part of our allowed range of values, we simply write them both with this U symbol between them. This U symbol stands for union. To see this in action, consider these 2 inequalities which we have just discussed how to handle individually. On our number line, we'd get the shaded region associated with each inequality, and individually we would get the same intervals as before. The first region we would get -2 to 1, not including 2 but including 1, while from the second shaded region we would get 3 including 3 all the way up to infinity. If we want to join these regions together as one solution now, we simply take the intervals from each piece and write the union symbol between them. Also note we are not limited to the union of just 2 intervals, but can keep joining together as many intervals as we need to with the symbol U. With this, we have gone over the various ways to express a range of values and see how number lines, inequalities, and interval notation all relate to one another. Until next time.